first part of chapter 4, we talked and said, hey, attitudes don't necessarily predict behaviors that well on a specific basis, but they do overall. When you aggregate, we talked about it and said, yeah, attitudes can influence behavior, but perhaps even more importantly, behaviors can influence attitudes. So now we want to take that second part, that behaviors can, actions we'll call them now, actions can change attitudes, and let's describe it a little bit. Why might it happen? Okay, and we'll talk about 3 different theories on this. Okay, the first theory, self-presentation theory, says what we do often is we do this impression management. We want to look good to other people in particular, or even to ourselves, and so we want to present ourselves in favorable ways. And if you look inconsistent, if you're like wishy-washy, then people, so we express an attitude to match our actions so that we don't look inconsistent and stupid to either ourselves or to others. This is an interesting conception. Perhaps the most important one is cognitive dissonance. Our attitudes change because we're motivated to maintain something called, consistency, or to avoid dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is this feeling, this unpleasant internal tension state that we feel. Well, at least this is proposed, okay? This tension state we feel when what we say does not match what we do, okay? So, I like Bill, but do you know what? When Bill needed some help, I didn't help Bill. Oh shit, okay? Attitude, I like Bill. Behavior, I didn't help Bill. Oh man, I feel an unpleasant tension state called cognitive dissonance. Well, what happens is that I can relieve this tension state by doing one of 2 things. I can either change my attitude or change my behavior. Well, guess what? I didn't help Bill. I can't change that behavior. It's a done deal. But I can say, well, maybe Bill's not that good a guy. Maybe Bill really didn't deserve that help. Okay? So I can change the attitude, no problem. And if I change that attitude, Bill is really not that good a guy, and I didn't help Bill, problem solved, all right? And so this is one explanation for why, the biggest explanation for why our behaviors can influence our attitudes. So the classic study was done by Leon Festinger. And so it basically, how do I describe this? A person comes into an experiment. They, for like an hour and a half, their job is to like turn screws into a board, and then they turn them all in, and then they take them all out of the board and they put them in a bucket, and then they put them back in the board. Just for an hour and a half. How incredibly painfully boring. Then at the end of the experiment, as they're about to leave, the researcher says, "Oh, my research assistant didn't show up. Would you help me out here? I've got $20. Here's $20, and would you, the next person that comes in, would you tell them how great the experiment is, how fun it is, all right? Or I'll pay you $1. So I'll pay you either 1 or 20 to tell the next person how great this experience is. And then afterwards, after all of that is done, I'm going to ask people what they really believed about it. And what happens is that if people, okay, when people are told, given $1 and to tell the next person how great the experiment was and how much fun it is, people come to truly believe it, okay? Because they're looking at it and they go, okay, I think the experiment was really boring. I just said it was really fun. So what can I do here? So what happens is these people come to truly believe that the experiment was actually more fun than it was. But if somebody's paid $20 and they're like, okay, I think the experiment was really boring. I just told this person it was really exciting, but they paid me $20. No cognitive dissonance here, baby. The $20 explains why my behaviors don't match my attitudes. So if you have this external reward as an explanation or as a way to explain why the behavior doesn't match the attitudes, then guess what? Attitudes don't change. But if you have here the insufficient justification, the people who were paid $1, that was insufficient justification. It wasn't enough. And so people are like, Maybe I said it was exciting because it really was exciting. Okay? And they start to change your attitudes about it. After we make important decisions, we tend to upgrade the choice we made to reduce any cognitive dissonance. Because if you just bought a brand new car and you start looking around at other cars, there's a problem. I just bought this car, I'm stuck with this car, but I believe that other car is better. Oh shit, that would create some real cognitive dissonance. So people avoid that by um, upgrading what they just made. Like here, I like this one. Racetrack bettors that had just placed a bet were even more optimistic than those people that were standing in line that had not actually physically bet yet. Okay, the very act of committing yourself to this, to this behavior, in increases a bit. Okay, whatever. What was this? Oh yeah, how can I reduce dissonance? So I have cognitive dissonance. What can I do? I can change my attitude right here. Like let's say it's about smoking. I don't really need to quit because I like smoking. Oh, it's just a new attitude. Or we can justify it a little bit. Smoking relaxes me and keeps my weight down, which is a benefit to my health. Okay, lovely. So I've justified it. Just sort of like that $20 is a justification. Altering the importance. It's more important to stay with the yeah, or reducing the perceived choice. I have no choice. Yeah, sure, my behavior doesn't match my attitude, but I am forced to do it. Or I'm going to stop smoking. Change your behavior, all right? As long as it's a future behavior, that's fine. But if it was like Bill, you can't go back and change the past. Or can't change past behaviors, but you can't change future if you have that problem. Remember when it came to attributions, when we watch somebody else's behavior, we attribute their behavior, and we attribute it to either the situation or the person. Why did that student come in late? Because A, they're a bad person, or B, they had problems parking. Remember that? Well, it turns out that when we look at ourselves, we seem to be making the same attributions. Okay, this is self-perception theory. The theory that when we're unsure of our attitudes, we look at them by looking at our own behavior. Just like we would look at somebody else and go, does this person like French fries? It depends. Do they eat French fries, right? And so I could infer your attitude about French fries based on your behavior around French fries. Now, it seems a little silly to take this same idea to the self, but in many cases, our attitudes are up in the air, and they're not set in stone and solid. And so, yeah, we look at our behaviors, and our own behaviors give us the information about our own attitudes. William James proposed that, we are happy because we smile, right? William James says, we go, I wonder how I'm feeling today. Let me look. And you pay attention to your own, oh, I'm smiling. If I'm smiling, I must be happy. And we infer our own emotions from our own behaviors. We find that if people put a pen between their, oh boy, let me do this. And later, they report themselves happier. And if they go, push down the corners of their mouth, they report themselves as sadder, all right? Or they'll rate a cartoon as funnier when they have a pen like this than compared to this. Smile training in Japan, all right, for Japanese airline. That's cute. Over-justification. This is really impressive. If you take a child and they enjoy coloring, and so then you say, I'll give you $20 if you make good coloring, very soon the kids will not enjoy coloring. It's a fact. Here's a really interesting little proverb story. So, there was once a Jewish tailor who had the temerity, I like that, the temerity to open his shop on the main street of an anti-Semitic town. To drive him out of town, a gang of youths visited the shop each day, standing in the entrance and shouting, Jew! Jew! After several sleepless nights, the tailor finally devised a plan. The next time that the gang came to threaten him, the tailor announced that anyone who called him a Jew would get a dime. And he handed dimes out to everybody in the gang. The gang members were so delighted, they returned the next day and yelled, Jew! Jew! And the tailor said, well, you know what? I don't really have enough money today. All I can afford is a nickel for each of you. They were satisfied. I mean, it's a nickel, right? On the following day, the tailor gave out pennies to each gang member, and he said, I'm really running short now. Well, a penny was not enough an incentive, and the gang member's like, hey, come on, where's my money? And so what did they say? What? began to protest. Don't I have the next slide? Oh yeah. When the tailor replied that they could take it or leave it, they decided to leave it, shouting at the tailor he was crazy if he thought that they would call him a Jew for only a penny. They were willing to do it for free, but now they won't do it for a penny. Too good to not be true, right? Um, so you enjoy an activity, and there's no external reward. You look at it and you go, I must do it because I like it. There's an enjoyable activity, and you're getting paid for it, and you look at it and go, I must be doing it because I'm getting paid to. Change the story. Blah, 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 blah. No, I don't care that much. All right. So this is an interesting chapter. It's really, these attitudes are important, but keep them in mind for what they are, okay? They're just, you know, they may predict behavior, they may not predict behavior. Across all, hundreds of choices, they will. They can be well thought out. They can be just sort of passively gained from perhaps your parents or your peers. They can be, right? And we find that the behaviors we exhibit sometimes match our attitudes, sometimes doesn't. Sometimes when we exhibit different behaviors, it changes our attitudes. Attitudes are not consistent across our lifetime. And attitude is a really general concept which can include things like political beliefs. It can include, because I know college students tend to be Democrat, and then they graduate and they start making money and they tend to be Republican. I'm just saying, all right? And it makes a lot of sense. So we find, though, that the cognitive dissonance theory is a big one. Make sure you pick up cognitive dissonance theory. Read up on it on Wikipedia. I really fascinated with it. I don't think I did a wonderful job explaining that experiment to you. But check out that Festinger experiment. That's really a cool one. I will see you, well, in fact, this is all the material for the first quiz. Best of luck on the quiz, and I will talk to you next time. Or I'll still sit here trying to figure